Year.
Happy New Year. It's already been a long morning for me.
Same. I woke up about 2 hours before my alarm this morning. But I woke up and saw you were already on a flight. so yeah, I know early morning for you. So you're in Detroit now, right?
I am in Detroit, and I will tell you, today is like one of the wildest airport days I've ever seen at my little podunk airport. Like, they had the lot, all the stanchions that are normally at TSA were filled all the way primarily for regular boarding, regular TSA. And then it came out the middle and it went down the whole one side
Oh my
of
gosh.
the terminal. Like, it was obnoxious. Like, our flight even waited an extra like 15 minutes
Wow.
for people to clear security. I mean, pre-check took me 30 minutes. And that never ever happens. Like, I joke it literally takes me 5, and that is like walking through.
Is there clear there?
No, no, it's definitely not big enough.
Wow. Wow.
Well,
Now,
Happy New Year, Emmy. Emmy's in here. Hello, guys. Guys, remember, if you are commenting on Facebook, make sure you put your name next to it so we know who you are, and we can see YouTube and whatnot. But Facebook's just a little different. But Jason, do you want to kick it off?
let's get going. Well, guys, if you're new to joining us, welcome. This is Today in Travel. This is our weekly travel show where we talk about everything in the travel industry. We have lots to talk about today, not in the way of news, but we're going to kind of recap some of the chaos over Christmas, kind of talk about the year going forward. I am Jason Poole. I'm a travel advisor with Cruise Planners. And I just love talking about all things travel, cruising, Europe, airlines. And my co-host is so kind to join me live from the lovely city of Detroit. I joked with her, nothing is better than Detroit in January. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Haley. I own a hotel sales support company and I run a travel blog. Been in hotels for 16 years now. And just love traveling like Jason. And, of course, starting off the new year with a work trip. But I
You,
think we
you,
have
you, beat, you beat me by first flight.
we don't have a lot of travel news today,
Right.
but a lot for discussion because a lot
Yes.
happened over the holidays.
A lot happened. So let's jump in. So, guys, we're talking about Southwest Airlines, okay? So, people have been asking what went wrong, okay? We're not gonna dive into the problem, how many cancellations there were, that's all in the news. I want to have a discussion about, like, why did Southwest fail, collapse, and other airlines did not.
And to preface this, Jason and I both used to be Southwest
Oh my
people.
gosh. I still literally have lots of Southwest points in my account. Okay. I mean, I flew a Southwest flight last year because I'd already qualified for Delta. I was doing the end of the year. I had points. So I went for free. So I flew Southwest like 13 months ago. Okay. So this is not.
And for what it is, and like, it all depends on what kind of traveler you are. A lot of times you find for families that only go once or twice a year, like, it's a great option with bags and everything
Yep.
else in the direct options. But
Well,
there's,
we're gonna
I think that
we're
kind
gonna
of leads
discuss
into the reason why we switched based on our travel habits from Southwest.
I agree. So I can boil down Southwest. Their meltdown is really attributed to two factors. The first one's easier to kind of understand. Everyone kind of gets it. The second one, we'll have a little more discussion. The first one is really just an underinvestment in infrastructure. Okay. Everyone has known for decades that Southwest has a very old system setup, infrastructure, the way they schedule flight attendants, the way they schedule pilots. You have to call in. There's not like an app, an online portal. Like, you literally call in, see where you're going. It's very dated. Okay. and their scheduling center in Texas is also it's very dated. The unions for some of the flight attendants have been begging them to update their systems for literally decades, and it has fallen on deaf ears. So when there's a crisis and you have people stranded, I'm talking about crew, it's very hard to get them rescheduled when they have to call and the phone lines are melting.
It was Eddie that was talking about that in the group, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, but he worked for South. Right. Right.
And it's so wild. And I think this should be a wake up call to all airlines and even other parts of the hospitality industry, hotels. Like, I've shown you how archaic the hotel systems are.
Yep,
like,
absolutely.
I joke about Hilton's being, a little better on the back end than Marriott, because Marriott looks like it's straight out of I think they're using the same system that they had in the 70s and 80s. Fosse and Marcia, and it's just, at least the back end of Hilton system looked like Windows 95.
I mean, it blows my mind how many companies. I mean, so like Michael Brennan is in here, and he works for a music company, and I've seen some of him talk about some of his systems, and they're just like old, right? It looks like you're at next cruise on like Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, and it's like that old database. You're tabbing through everything.
S4, F5.
Right. I mean, it's old, right? And so you and look, I mean, guys, let's be honest, like AA, United, Delta, it's not like their infrastructure is amazing.
No.
Okay, we're not saying that, right? But they've at least updated it somewhat, especially when it comes to scheduling the crew members. Okay.
Well, and I think part of what the difference is with your legacy carriers is this part two that you're gonna
Right. So part one is the underinvestment. Okay. Part two is a little bit harder to describe. Okay. So most airlines operate under it's called a hub and spoke or a point to point. Okay. Your three legacy carriers in America, so AA, American Airlines, United, and Delta, largely operate on a hub and spoke. Okay. So American, for example, their hubs are Charlotte and Dallas. And JFK also, like
Philly too.
They do actually quite a bit, right? But I'm like their main hubs, like Delta is Atlanta,
Detroit.
JFK, and then kind of Detroit, Minneapolis, Seattle, and like Salt Lake City, right? Those are kind of like the main hubs. United, of course.
Now they're trying to push on Boston a little bit too.
Right, they are. So United, you've got Newark, Chicago. So all these airlines have like major hubs and like secondary hubs, right? And so the business model of hub and spoke is like Nashville to Atlanta as like a spoke, right? So there's not a ton of nonstop flights Nashville to other parts of the country. Most of the nonstop flights for Nashville are Atlanta, Detroit, Minneapolis, JFK, LAX, right? So they're using Nashville as like a spoke to get me to a hub, right? Am I sounding right here in my analysis?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so the reason they do that is, so like I'll just use Nashville all day long. It's Nashville, Atlanta. Plane goes Nashville, Atlanta, Nashville, Atlanta, Nashville, Atlanta, Nashville, Atlanta, all day long.
Yeah.
And then
our JFK flights, like we have like 4 of them. And it's just
all day.
Boom, 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 boom.
And then once you're in Atlanta, or if you're American, you're in Dallas or Charlotte, or you're United, you're in Newark, you then have access to almost any flight in the world, right? Once you get to Atlanta, you can get almost anywhere in the world from Atlanta.
And there's a lot of backups. Yeah.
There's a lot of backups, right? Southwest operates with what's called like a point-to-point system. Okay. So at first look, point-to-point often looks better because they can connect secondary markets with nonstop flights. Okay?
Which especially, if you're a cruiser, like we've seen a lot of cruisers do Southwest because it makes sense because there's so many direct flights to Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
Orlando, Tampa. The bags fly free. So
Right.
very popular choice for cruisers.
Right. So, for example, a plane might start in the morning in Denver, and the plane goes Denver to Nashville, and then Nashville to Fort Lauderdale, and then like Fort Lauderdale to Orlando, Orlando to Dallas, and then it's done. The next day, it goes Dallas to Denver, and it kind of keeps doing this like point to point system. Okay. So if you're in Orlando and you need to get to Dallas, the Southwest nonstop looks amazing. If you're in Nashville and you need to get to Fort Lauderdale, that nonstop flight looks amazing. But what happened was this winter storm came and all of these airports closed. So Southwest didn't have the planes where they needed to be because the Denver airport closed. I know this firsthand. I had clients and friends of mine who were at the Nashville airport flying Southwest to Fort Lauderdale. Their plane never left Denver. But the plane that went Atlanta, Nashville took off and got everybody from Nashville to Atlanta. Okay. Now, I'm not saying other airlines cannot suffer cancellations. Of course they can.
Yeah, you can't control the weather.
Right. But when you're
mechanical issues happening here and there.
When you're a quad, I mean, Southwest likes to act like they're still kind of like a small regional carrier. And they do this for like regulation's sake. That's a whole other conversation. But when you're an airline as big as Southwest and you were still operating the point to point system, you are operating on a knife's edge. You know, your Sun Country, you're doing point to point from Miami to Tampa, Miami to Nassau. That's a regional airline who the point to point system works perfectly.
And Southwest has continued to expand. Like, they're doing the Hawaii routes.
Right.
There was mumblings of them possibly dabbling even a UK route at one point in time.
Right. So, and again, we are not talking down on Southwest, right? They are clearly a fan favorite. They're rated one of the better airlines in America all the time. But when you understand the point to point system versus hub and spoke, you realize that point to point works fine if everything is operating perfectly. But when it's not, the system just crashes and burns because they're relying on planes coming in from other markets
and I think what's important to kind of like discuss too is like what you do in those situations. If you're not on a legacy carrier that has those backups, they were talking to, like, even this morning with like seeing how backed up TSA was. I'm like, whatever, if I miss this, I'll just catch the 10 o'clock Detroit flight.
Right.
They're open. I'll just do that.
Yeah. I mean, Nashville, Atlanta, it's my life. Has flights constantly. And then once you get to Atlanta, there's constantly flights out of Atlanta, right? So you just have
the conversation I had. It's like, get to a hub.
Get to a hub.
Get to a hub. And then
right. I mean, look, not to dwell on that summer Apex disaster that I missed my cruise. My mistake was not getting to a hub. That was my mistake, right? I made a mistake by not keeping the ball moving forward and not getting to a hub, right? Like if you're like an American person, you got to get to Dallas, you got to get to Charlotte, you got to get to Philly, right? Atlanta, you got to get to Atlanta. I'm sorry, Delta, you got to get to Atlanta. Like you just have to. So now here's the next question. a lot of my clients have said, I'm never flying Southwest again. What do you think Southwest is going to have to do to get back customers? Because let me tell you, living in Nashville, Nashville is a Southwest city. Okay. Like it is a huge
Oh, I
Southwest presence, right? And people love Southwest because they can get a ton of places in America nonstop. Okay. So some people are saying, I'm never going back. What do you think Southwest has to do to get those people back if they can?
I think so. Coming from hotel world, there needs to be that fall on the sword, whether it's a dip in prices. I think it's gonna be a combination of you'll see some price dips in sales. Like I guarantee you're gonna see like a Martin Luther King flash sale one way as low as $39 type of thing. But I think with the people that are affected, it's that, do you know what, we're gonna refund your airfare and give you a 50% bonus of whatever your airfare was towards your next flight.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, look,
all in the sort, like, and just admit you're wrong. Like, this is something I preach to my employees, I preach to my hotels. It's like we're human. Like, there's always going to be human error. There's always going to
right.
be something. Own it. Say, like I said, do that even like, and here's the steps that we're taking to try to prevent this. Like, we're going to try to, we're working on, mapping out a new model plan so that we don't have this situation again. And then it's just kind of that constant follow up after. It can't just be a one and done thing. Like there's going to need to be that, like, monthly check in, like updates, like here's what we're doing, don't forget your credit, here's this. They need to take that people to people personality that they're known for and really
Yeah, I agree. I
lean
agree.
into that.
I mean, look, I've used this disaster as somewhat of a teaching moment to some of my clients. And I've said, look, we all like nonstop flights. Okay, we do.
Oh yeah,
Like
I mean, there's days that, like when I'm going to a cruise out of Florida, I'm like, man, that direct looks real nice right now.
it does. It really does, right? And look, and I'm not saying I will never fly Southwest
Yeah.
nonstop before. I am not saying that, right? I mean, look, I was tempted to do it in this past December. That's why I still have Southwest miles, but I needed one more flight to hit Diamond with Delta. So blah blah blah. Right. So I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, but if I'm a family that gets to travel like once a year, and it is like the spring break trip, right? We've saved up, we're doing a cruise for spring break, or we're going somewhere for 4th of July. And if it's something like a cruise that's going to leave without you, I am strongly encouraging my clients to look at one of the, like, if you live in Nashville, American makes a lot of sense. Okay. Because they do have nonstops to Miami, right? You have
Well,
JetBlue as a backup in Nashville.
I think a lot of it is also you need to consider the times of your flights. Like me personally, I will not fly same day between the months of November
No,
through
no,
March even. And
no.
typically, generally, I'm not a same day kind of girl unless it's like a work thing. Um, I like taking that mid morning, 10 a.m. ish flight the day before, getting in close to like late afternoon because it gives me time if flights are missed and canceled. It gives me time to make decisions to go elsewhere. Like we were talking about your clients and they were trying to figure out what to do. And I mean, what did I tell you? I'm like, with the meltdown that's happening, I'm like, drive.
Yeah. And they did. And look, and if there's something you really, 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 I mean, look, when I'm going to Quito, Ecuador, at the end of the month, I'm going in 2 days early. Now, granted, it's part of a package with Celebrity. You go in 2 days early, they do a tour, right? But I think it's really smart that they encourage you not to come in just 1 day early to Quito, Ecuador, where there's one Delta flight a day and one American flight a day, but 2 days, right? So in essence, we've got, we have lots of backup. Yes, if we miss a day in keto, I'm going to be upset. But like with multiple days, like we will make it there somehow. And that will lead us to our travel tip of the day later. I've already kind of have like some backup. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of that. My final thoughts on Southwest are, if you can afford to miss the flight and have your trip delayed a day or two, I think Southwest is going to be fine. If it is really urgent, I would strongly encourage you to look at one of the legacy carriers, whoever happens to be most dominant in your market.
And my final note on Southwest too is one of the main reasons I stopped flying Southwest, for me, my market, they really weren't cheaper anymore. Like a lot of times I found them to be the same price, if not a little bit more expensive. And I was like, then I'm just going to fly a legacy, throw all my miles and stuff there. Because I want to travel internationally and whatnot, and I'll take the layover. I'll build the loyalty status, get the
Yeah.
upgrades, and
Those are the same two reasons. They got expensive in Nashville, and I got tired of earning domestic points with Southwest and international points with Delta.
yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
like,
if you're somebody that's traveling 4 to 6 plus times a year, it's worth evaluating.
it is worth evaluating. And they're I know the free bags are nice, but they're still way like, get the Delta credit card, get the AA credit card. There are ways around it. And I hate it, but I do think they're a good company. I think they're customer
Yeah,
focused.
100%.
I think they're a customer focused company. I really do. I mean, look, in some ways, I think Southwest tries harder than some of the legacy people as far as like customer service goes. Like
100%.
their flight attendants are nicer, the check-in agents are all nicer, but that comes at a cost when they operate. I mean, look, there is a reason Delta, United, and American are more alike than they are different. Okay. I know you and I like to give Ken Jarvis crap, but at the end of the day, American, United, and Delta are more alike than they're different. Okay.
I would have been happy with that Pokeball. I'm just going to throw it here live.
Yeah. So there's a reason they operate with the hub and spoke, right? Now you could argue there's some disadvantages to it, like monopoly power, and like there are disadvantages to it as well. But so that's it. Didn't mean to talk about for 20 minutes on Southwest, but
That's the only real big news piece. The rest is just going to be info and kind of what we're doing for this
I
year.
agree. All right. So the next thing is this is wave season. Now, what the heck is wave season? Haley, do you know what wave season is?
I do because I'm friends with you.
Okay. So, in the cruising world, and a little bit with the all-inclusive resorts, but it's mostly, I think it's like I said, mostly cruises. Some inclusive resorts are kind of catching on as well. So, wave season is typically the first quarter of a new year, so January through March. Some cruise lines are starting it earlier, just like Black Friday sales start earlier. It is when the cruise lines get very aggressive on promotions, discounts, added amenities, etc. Right? This is the time of year where travel agents are the busiest because the cruise lines are throwing out reduced deposits, kids sell free.
And it's winter, and everybody's like, ugh, get me out of here.
Get me out of here, right? So, like I said, the cruise line kind of start the wave season a little like, I mean, look, my November, December, 2022 were insane, right? I was so busy, and so the wave season starts a little earlier. So now is a great time to book that 2023 trip. I know
And
people.
24 even too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I always, what's that old saying? When the best time to plant a tree, yesterday, second best day was, today, right? When the best time to book a cruise a year ago, when's the second best time? Today, right? So, there are all the cruise lines are pushing last minute spring break deals. They're pushing like summer Europe, summer Alaska. Like I've already been holding group space for 2024. So, I mean, wave season is upon us. And if you're thinking about booking, now is a good time to book. So, you might hear that phrase wave season. We just wanted to explain to you what it is.
Absolutely. And what's our question of the day today, Jason?
So it's the beginning of the year. People are always talking about their New Year's resolutions. I'm going to read more. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to work out, et cetera, et cetera. Since we are a travel community, let's discuss our New Year's travel resolution.
Well, I definitely have some resolutions for our group to help improve it, but we'll discuss that after
Okay.
this.
Okay. So what are some of your personal ones?
One of my biggest personal resolutions is I want to make sure I am maximizing my credit card points.
Okay.
I want to make, I have a whole done out plan, and I'm actually printing some vinyl to kind of like etch onto my cards so that I'm really maximizing like which one's better when it's a grocery purchase or like this or that. Maximizing my points, because sometimes I get really lazy and default to my platinum card when I know that my gold card or my sapphire or my Delta reserve card
Yep.
is a better option. So I'd like to get a little bit better at that. Hello, Beach Bum Dave. And I want to get to friggin' London this year. I booked a flight and I booked a hotel.
It was Virgin, right?
I did. I booked Virgin upper class.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Very, very. I'm very excited. I have a lot of family stuff going on, so I'm hoping to bring my dad on this trip and be able to do like Churchill's War Room, then hopefully take the channel over, take him over to Normandy, kind of do like a little World War II history kind of
I love it.
trip in November. So honestly, my biggest thing is I want to be very intentional with my trips. Like that may not look like quite as many this year because I have some financial goals with my company that I want to, there's a CRM I want to build, there's some stuff like that. But the trips that I do take, I want them to be very intentional, and I want to make sure I'm working smarter and not harder. Like I want to hit my 25K spend on my reserve, so I'm not like, oh, I gotta fly and spend this money flying all the time.
Right.
So just more intentional and smarter with those decisions. And that was super working. Yeah. What are yours?
So I mean, it's similar, right? So this is my I have a milestone birthday this year. I'm turning 30 plus 10. It's my 10th anniversary of turning 30 this year.
Yeah.
And I am really trying to make it just an unforgettable year. Okay. I'm really focusing on new and different experiences. Planning trips to 2 new continents. Because one of my life goals is to visit all 7 continents. And I talk about Antarctica all the time. Antarctica's not this year, but this year I will go to South America and Australia. So I'm really excited. I'm really trying to focus on new destinations. So, I mean, yes, I have, a Caribbean or 2 lined up, but it's like 10 nights, Southern Caribbean. I've only been to like Aruba, Barbados, all that like once. St. Kitts I've been to like once. So I'm kind of looking forward. And I kind of like a spring break Caribbean trip. But once that's done, it is really all focused on like spring. I'm doing Tel Aviv and Turkey. I'm going to a Greek island or 2 that I've never even, one of them I don't even heard of, right? So more places. Summer, I love the Med in the summer over 4th of July. It's nice and cool, crisp air. Focusing on Turkey as well, Greece, super excited. December, going down to Australia, New Zealand, and of course, in this month, Ecuador, and then the Galapagos. So I am just really trying to focus on new and different things. It's not that I don't love the Caribbean. I do. I just personally am really trying to like see the world. And this year will be the first time I experience luxury cruising. So, I'm a big fan of premium, celebrities premium.
Yeah.
So, Flora, Galapagos is, yes, Silver does have a Galapagos product, but Flora definitely kind of feels like premium plus.
Yes.
But in the spring, I'm doing Seabourn out of Tel Aviv. So that will be my first, tipping my toes into luxury travel. And I am just so excited to share, the differences between premium and luxury.
Absolutely.
So that was wordy, but basically new experiences. That's kind of it. Just really try to focus on new experiences.
Well,
Oh, and I want to normalize long weekends in Europe, personally. Okay, so I'm trying to
bored with that.
I'm just like, you know what? It's okay to go to Europe for 3 nights. It's okay. It's crazy, but it's okay. Like, it's okay.
I can be on board with that.
Yeah, I loved my long weekend in London in the fall. It was crazy.
I've tried getting Jeff to do that, and he's like, "That is insane." I'm like, "But is it though?"
I think it's fun. Look, I'd rather spend a weekend in London. It's like London's pretty easy to get to. You get to JFK, and it's easy. So
yeah, no, 100%. Well, to wrap this up, we're gonna summarize here. We're gonna have a little bit more time to kind of flush this out over the next week or two. But I put a poll in the group, and thank you because a bunch of you voted on it. Which is super helpful because, one of our big goals for this group for 2023 is not just to grow it, but to make sure we're catering content to what you guys are looking for. So we're looking at putting a plan into place for some more interactive posts. There are some community ambassador pieces that I'm working on, some fun opportunities for some of you guys to hop in on. Adding more Q&A options in one of the shows, if it's a weekly, if it's a monthly, if it's an after hours. So we hear you. We are going to shift this around you because it's nothing without you guys.
I agree.
So a lot to come.
That's exciting. But before we go, don't forget we have a quick travel tip of the day.
Yes.
So, guys, when you're flying, and this kind of was about the Southwest thing. We've mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again. When you are traveling, it is always a good idea to have backup flight options, like not ready to book, but you just have researched it and you're aware of other options when you're flying. So, for example, I'm flying to Quito, Ecuador at the end of the month. I know what my backup options are if for some reason Delta just crap hits the fan. Okay. I know my options are to get to Atlanta.
I love how you showed me you can do that in Flighty because I've just kind of been doing that already with Google Flights. I kind of go in when I'm going international. I'm like, all right, here's my options. If Delta messes up, I have 2 more options. If those get messed up, I have I will hop in a taxi and go to Newark if I have to.
Right. So you guys know I love the app Flighty. It's iOS only, but it is a great app. And in the app, you can when you put your flight information in, it has a button on there called Alternative. And you can search for that day, the next day, and it'll pull up all the flights that leave from that airport to where you're going. And so you just kind of have an idea of other options on that day. So it's just excuse me, it's just really important just to be aware of what your options are.
When you know your options, you can just act a lot faster. And I mean, also kind of coming into, not to beat this dead horse, but when you have your travel insurance, you really have access to those options. Like, if I've had times where I've had to say, screw it, I'm booking something else, I'll get my money back later. Like when I got stuck on the tarmac coming back from Cozumel, I called you, double check. I'm like, can I do this? And
Uh-huh.
my night was much nicer because I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, thanks for hanging with us. Sorry, went a little long today. We just had a lot to discuss with the Southwest debacle wave season resolution. So, guys, we'll see you back next week.
All right,
Haley,
bye, guys.
have fun in Detroit.
We got to smile for 5
I
seconds.
remember.
We're trying to get better at this. All right, here we go, Jason. 5 seconds.